open your mouth, tell that linebacker, nickelback, dimeback, hey, listen, we could be getting an out here. Get your depth, get under one. That's how you help yourself. Don't play this head game where you just try and figure out when that out route is coming and go jump it. First thing that I want to get to, and that is cornerbacks in quarters coverage. I am a confessed quarters hater. I think it's too passive of a coverage, too many open underneath zones, too many ifs and ands for cornerbacks that can leave them exposed, especially with a lot of quarters being played by cornerbacks with outside leverage, and there's the chance that you'll get help inside from your safety or not. And the way that works is you can sometimes expect that help to come, and the safety sees something different, and now it's you and a wide receiver one-on-one on a big post. And when I say big post means that ball is thrown to the other side of the field once that receiver gets inside of you. It's just not a really, really good feeling. And on top of that, when fans see that drop on you, they automatically think that it was just man-to-man coverage, and the word that they use is you got cooked. Well, I get that that's what it looks like to a fan. Ball's thrown deep, falls in a receiver's hand. Closest person there is going to be the cornerback. So, yeah, you're going to get that cooked label on you, and you just got to hear that. You got to listen to that stuff. Well, there are times where you should have had an inside help on that, and you're kind of playing it that way, and that's not what happens. And, sure enough, it's a touchdown for the team, for the offense. It's a long score, which is especially maddening because you know what fans expect when the offense has the ball deep down in their territory. Hey, we can get a stop here and they punt the ball back to us. We'll have good field position, but here you are giving up an 80, 70, 60-yard touchdown, and it looks bad. For cornerbacks here, and there are coaches that are more and more coaches are living and dying by this quarters because they don't want to give up the big play. They just want to keep things soft. Hopefully the offense will get a sack or will be, they'll fall behind somehow with a penalty. And they want to rely more on thinking the offense can't successfully execute 10 to 12 plays to get into the end zone. So they more want to keep things in front of them, not give up the big play. But, as I've kind of explained here, the big play is very much in play when you're running quarters. Also, with all of the RPOs out there, a lot of coaches feel like the safeties being down and ready for, primary run support versus the RPOs gives them a better chance than, just having one safety deep and relying on corners on the outside or an extra linebacker down in the box. This is just what's being taught at all the clinics, and then this is just what all the teams are running with. I personally would not go that route, but it's not me. It's not me running these defenses. I am not coaching anymore. So if teams are going to run quarters, I'm here to talk to my cornerbacks and to my coaches that are in those systems to help the corners and achieve the goal, which is not giving up that big play. And I'm going to simply say this for the cornerbacks. If you don't have the liberty to line up how you want, all right, let's say that for whatever reason in the coverage, the way that it's run, the defensive coordinator and your defensive back coach wants you to align up with an outside shade, with outside leverage. I'm here to tell you the routes that you need to care about in quarters are the post, the go, and the corner route. So that's the last three and the big three numbers on the route tree. Okay, so if you guys, are familiar with the route tree, and hopefully I can get one posted up here on the screen while I talk. Sorry for you folks that are listening to this podcast on one of your streaming devices. Just maybe perhaps if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, you Google wide receiver route tree and you'll see what I'm talking about. Routes 7, 8, and 9, the big ones, the ones deep down the field. That is what you as cornerbacks need to concern yourself with. What does this mean you end up doing? It means you end up opening your hips sooner out of your pedal. in most cases. We'll kind of talk about some of your options here, but you open up a little bit sooner. You start running to that post sooner, especially when you observe the route combinations, because you are, as a corner in most of the quarters coverages that are being run, especially if there's another receiver to your side, you are keying what number two is doing. And oftentimes number two's route is going to pretty much give you an indication on what number one's route is. Case in point, you've got two receivers to your side. You're eyeballing the number two receiver. He goes and runs an over route, or he runs a dig at 10, 12 yards. You see him going in there. 9 times out of 10, that is going to be a post route by the number one guy. All right. That in route is to pretty much take that safety that's supposed to help you on the post route out of there. Okay. He's now activated. He's got to go run with that route. And the best way to get that number one guy open is to go run to that area where the safety has vacated from. And now we get a post by a wide receiver who is inside of the outside defensive back, who's lined up in outside leverage. So when you observe that, if you're reading number two, when you observe that over route, you observe that in route, that dig route, it's time for you to open up and start climbing to that post, okay? You should be over the top of the wide receiver, and now you just need to start your race to that post. Don't get beat to it, all right? So you start opening up and you're running, and what you want to do is, yes, be ready to make that race, but you don't want to find yourself too far inside, because there's also and always that 7 route. All right. And that is the post corner, where receivers gives you a couple of steps to the post, makes you think that he's going there. You get over anxious. You lose your leverage. Now you're inside, and he plants his foot in the ground and goes back to the corner route. And that'll kill you as well. Most of the time, not a touchdown, but it could be if the ball is placed well by the quarterback. So start climbing to the post with your slight outside leverage, and I mean slight, okay? You don't want to get inside, but you don't want to be too far outside either, because even though you're open and started climbing, you could still get beat if the quarterback places that ball correctly on the other side of the field. All right. The climbing also helps you if it ends up being a go route. Okay. And that's really kind of the route that you're trying to stop when you call quarters anyway. For you coaches out there, you're trying to just stop that deep ball. You're trying to have 4 defenders deep for 4 wide receivers running deep in any type of a 4 wide receiver situation, whether that's 10 personnel, 11 personnel, because tight ends have gotten more athletic these days. They have no problem running them down the field. So the opening up a little bit earlier than normal is going to really help you in that situation against a 9 route. And so you just maintain your outside position slightly to cover that 8 and that 7 route. Okay, so what happens in those? The guys that do that give up those out routes, those deep out routes, and they can be maddening. Okay, and this is the bait that happens to you. So you open up early. All right, receiver through body language sells the post. You open up, he plants, speed outs it at 15 yards, 12, 15 yards, depending on, the offense that you're going against. And sure enough, it's a timing throw. Quarterback takes his 5-step drop, bounces off that back foot, releases it, and that's a 15-yard out route that's caught. And of course, that's going to be on you, because you're probably going to be the first guy that shows up, and people are going to say that you're out there getting cooked. And PFF, with all of their infinite wisdom of how defenses work, will go ahead and say that was on you, despite the fact that you're running quarters and that's not really your route to be on. They'll give that one to you, and they will go ahead and say that you're a very low ranked corner, blah blah blah, everything else that goes along with the BS of PFF ratings. I could tell you guys not to care about that, but PFF ratings get put everywhere now. You could be watching a Pampers commercial. Stop. You didn't have all the interceptions that you wanted to have this year. So how are we going to fix that problem? I've got 2 great resources for you. First is my book, 101 DB Tips, chock full of information and tips for you to get your hands on that pigskin. Everything from how to train, how to play man coverage, how to play zone coverage, and a whole lot more. Plus, the All Eyes DB Camp members area breaks down coverages for you, technique, quizzes, all kinds of great things in there that's going to up your knowledge, that's going to get your hands
more times on the football this year. Check them out. I have a link in the description down below.
On Monday Night Football, and they throw a PFF rating up on it. They're all over the place because, somehow they've worked it into them, that this being the gospel about player performance. It's not, but can't tell those fans that. Nevertheless, should you be worried about what those fans think? No. And I'm going to reiterate again, that out route is not your problem. You know whose problem that is? The first person whose problem that is the linebacker who has underneath. He needs to get underneath number one, okay? Coaches a lot of times will give linebackers a pass in quarters. Another reason why I don't love the coverage. No one's really yelling at that outside linebacker who doesn't get his depth, who doesn't climb enough under one, and allows that ball to go over his head and get caught at the sidelines. That's on him. The next person that's on is the coordinator that called quarters. Sorry, coach. That's the hole in this coverage. And any one of you coaches out there, coordinators out there that are hearing me should hear me well. That's the hole in that coverage. So if you're out there giving your corner any kind of grief or pressure about that particular route being caught, when you also expect him to be stride for stride on a post, a regular post, or in the area to break up a pass or make a stop on a big post where it ends up on the other hash or the other numbers, you're being extremely unrealistic, and you probably didn't play defensive back. You're probably one of these linebacker coaches that are a defensive coordinator, and you somehow think you understand what goes on back there, understand the pressure that there is back there. But you're not going to get your corner to cover big posts, be where he needs to be on a 9 ball, but also be ready to break up a comeback or a speed out. You can forget that. That's the hole in the coverage. And if teams are running that consistently on you, I suggest you abandon your all quarters theory. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. But for my cornerbacks that are out there, protect yourself against the 7, 8, and 9 route, and you're basically just going to give up those out routes. Here's how you can help yourself. If you suspect, if you're an avid film watcher and you see the situation come up, you either see the down and distance or you see the formation where that speed out or comeback is a possibility or a reality, it is in your best interest to open your mouth and talk to your outside player, your apex player, whether that is a nickel, a dime back, or a linebacker. Give them some kind of an alert that out route might be coming, that comeback might be coming. That's going to alert them that they do need to take their drop and don't be standing shallow in the flat ready for a screen or a quarterback that's going to scramble who's not really going to scramble. They need to get up under number one and be in position to intercept that pass. By the way, for my linebackers that might be listening to this and feel attacked, the easiest interceptions that you're going to get are the ones where you take that deep drop, especially in a coverage like quarters, because a lot of times the quarterback doesn't see you. His eyes are on the deep. His eyes are on the rotation in the secondary, any double teams that might be happening, the route combinations that are happening far down the field. His eyes really are there, and there's a strong chance that he won't see you creeping deeper and deeper and deeper, and will probably just throw the ball right to your face. Take your drops in that. But corners, help yourself, because you're the one that they're going to say got cooked. So here's what happens with cornerbacks. Quarters is being run. A lot of teams will just run quarters consistently over and over and over, and the offense plots on it, and the plot is throwing those deep out and comeback routes. And after you get hit with a couple of those and the receiver's talking crazy to you and his sidelines is talking crazy to you, and maybe your coach has something to say to you about those routes being caught in that coverage, you're going to get tricked into trying to cover one of those. And just as sure as the sky is blue and the grass is green, the one time you decide to play one of those routes and go jump it, it's the time that big post comes and you're a little late on it. The guy gets on your toes. That's when that comes. Now, on top of the couple of big out routes that you gave up, you now gave up a big 60, 70-yard post for a touchdown. We see those routes versus that coverage getting caught every week in college and NFL football. Guaranteed. Just as sure as you're watching this and listening to this right now, you will see a big post completed this weekend on a corner that's playing coverage. It playing quarters coverage. It happens every week. Okay. Don't play that game with yourself. That out route, that comeback, that 5 route on the route tree. All right. If you're looking at that route tree, that's not your business. Okay. That is your neighbor, the husband and wife having an argument out on the front lawn. And then it's none of your business. Go in the house. Got nothing to do with you. Okay. Now, you can call the police. What's that mean for you? Telling that linebacker out. All right. As it's occurring in real time. Okay. I don't know how much that'll help you. I don't know how much you can process that. It'd be great if you could. Out. Hopefully he gets a little deeper, keeps climbing and goes and picks it off if it's thrown. The best thing to do, though, is alert him beforehand. Hey, be alert on the out. Got a comeback coming. All right. Make sure you get your depth, get your drop. Okay. That's the best thing for you to do. So now it's not a situation where you're just like, all right, I don't care. That route gets caught. At the end of the day, it is a route caught on your defense. It's a tremendous amount of yards gained on your defense. It does not help your team win. So open your mouth, tell that linebacker, nickelback, dimeback, hey, listen, we could be getting an out here. Get your depth, get under one. That's how you help yourself. Don't play this head game where you just try and figure out when that out route is coming and go jump it. Too many dudes have gotten busted and burnt doing that. If they catch 5 of them in a row, they caught 5 of them in a row. Go talk to the linebacker and maybe the coach and be like, hey, coach, they're killing us in quarters, man. Can we just run something else that will help me out there or give me at least the ability to get after that route and not give up something else that's more important in my responsibility? Maybe a good cover 3 that we have, a cover 1 where I could play off, or cover 2, something, coach. They're killing us in that, and I don't want to jump an out route that ends up being a post route. You could do that. And so for all of you coaches out there, I hope you're hearing me on that. Okay, if you've not played in the secondary, I am sharing something with you that us cornerbacks deal with when you run that coverage. It is a big problem for us. You could also do what some schools do, some programs do with quarters, and align that DB inside. Align him with inside leverage with a little bit of a deeper. He's a little deeper. He's at 8 or 9 yards as opposed to 7 yards. Does it kind of open yourself up to the hitch routes? Perhaps it does. And maybe you just are a little bit more savvy as to when you call quarters. But if you are going to line that corner back up in the inside, it is going to require a little bit more work on their pedal. And I know that's a little scary for some coaches out there trying to teach guys how to back pedal. But if you're good at teaching the pedal and you've got guys who can pedal, you might want to, experiment with aligning that cornerback inside. At least it makes the wide receiver work a little harder to get that inside leverage. He has to stem a little bit harder. That break comes a little bit further, deeper in the middle of the field, and it does shorten the big side of the field. If they do decide to go with a big post route, it does shorten that space there, and it makes it a little bit of a harder throw for that quarterback. He does have to fit it into that big space a little bit more. It's an odder throw. You end up changing the shape of that route a little bit more, and that's something for you to think about. Also, if you're giving your corners the liberty to drive on in routes and maybe curl routes, it does help for them to be inside. Now, I know on some of these deep curl routes, depending on what number 2 does, the safety to that side would be responsible on dropping down on that and making a play on that. But there are route combinations, as offenses have gotten very savvy at attacking quarters coverage, that can pull the safety out of that responsibility and now make it the sole responsibility of the corner. And now there's another route that, can cause him some anxiety in quarters. If you're doing this right, you really just want to make that cornerback responsible for those 3 routes that I mentioned in the beginning: the 7, the 8, and the 9 route. That's where you could put him at ease You could keep him from doing something, for lack of a better term, dumb back there that causes the big play to jump off. And then, you can also kind of lean on your safeties a little bit more too when they, see a phantom route or a phantom read in there that keeps them out of their double team. I see that quite often. Make it a point of emphasis that you have to read your keys as a safety, because when you need to provide that double team, you need to be there. Corner is relying on it. It's like being shallow in two-man as a safety. All right. That cornerback is playing inside and underneath. If that ball goes deep and you're not there, I mean, to me, it's seemingly the same thing. You're responsible for that. Okay. You're responsible for being over the top, just like you're responsible for providing that bracket on the corner, with the corner on that wide receiver if he goes to the post, provided that your read off of number 2 dictates that. I just hate to see when, the read from number 2 doesn't provide that and the safety's doing something else he shouldn't be doing and the corner's running by himself there. All right. So that is my soapbox on the corners and how you protect yourself in quarters coverage. That message is both for the players as well as the coaches. Take to mind and to heart some of the things that I have said here regarding that, because it is indeed quite important for guys in that coverage, because I train a lot of these guys. I hear some of their thoughts about quarters, and it would be nice at times if they could get help from coaches in understanding where they are with that coverage and some of the challenges that they face.